Get my mask off. Here we go on a Sunday morning. Just after 8 o'clock, I'm Brian Feldman, and this is Out of Line. We are here same time every week on Fox Sports Radio, 98.9 FM, 1340 AM, pre- and eventually post-pandemic flagship of the Vegas Golden Knights. Also here, co-host Caleb Herring, last UNLV quarterback to lead the Rebels to a bowl game, and producer Chris Magnum Chapman is here. Magnum now the producer and co-host of the Golden Knights Insider Show on Fox Sports Radio. It's every day at 3, right?
Yeah, 3 to 4 with Ryan the Hockey Guy Wallace.
And Chris Magnum Chapman now, man. Pretty cool. He's
by default. Let's be honest. It's
by default, and I don't want to go into
No, we're
all
not
that
going to
right
say
now.
it because HOFer, you're dope.
Correct.
So we're going to give it to you.
HOF.
With all of the Jets gear that you're wearing, you're still a good guy.
And regardless of how it happened, this type of thing and getting more airtime, as much as I don't like the guy, it's so overdue, it's not even funny. So wherever it gets in and however it happens, it's about flipping time. Also, following the rules in the break room, the guy responsible for today's social media questions and comments, he'll be answering all of them. He is our intern and social media director.
I want to do that first. I feel like, do it! I feel like the theme song's more important now.
Either way, the only intern in the
He
country
has a
with
theme
his
song
own theme
and
song.
a shout out. Like
seriously,
like
blogs now.
But he deserves it. He's the greatest.
He's getting famous. We've got him on other radio stations. He's building websites, and soon he's going to be way too big for all of us. Listen, the show is also streaming on the LV Sports Network, and if you're brave, you can see us on Facebook Live, on YouTube, on all kinds of places now with our StreamYard broadcast. Pretty cool. The page is called Out of Line. That's OUTTALINE. And you can also follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at Out of Line Fox LV. That's Out of Line Fox LV. And since the show is live, your calls are welcome. The Fox Sports Residential Bancorp studio line is 702-876-1340.
Hi, this is Bubby, and it's time for What's on Tap.
Now, What's on Tap, sponsored by title sponsor Residential Bancorp. Whether purchasing a new home or refinancing the home you already own, Residential Bancorp is the company to turn to for all your home financing needs. Residential Bancorp, funding America one neighborhood at a time. On Tap, sports, man. To be or not to be? That is the question. Not Shakespeare, but reality. Jim Gemma, Media Relations Director of the Las Vegas Aviators, will be joining on the wake of minor league baseball canceling their season. Fact this and S&B with C, all on the way. That's what's on tap. If you are looking to buy a home or to refinance the home you already own, choose a company you can trust. Residential Bancorp, funding America one neighborhood at a time.
Hockey players, as you know, are warriors. They don't give up. They come to play every game.
It's time for Nightcap, a cupful of the Vegas Golden Knights. From highlights to interviews to special events, the puck starts here.
Well, the puck is starting here. Phase 3, the start of training camp, is scheduled to begin July 13th. The hub cities now, Edmonton and Toronto. So enough of all the rumors. Vegas is not going to be a hub city, even though compared to the neighboring states, the positive cases of COVID-19 are way lower than Arizona, than California, even Utah, which is pretty surprising considering last night driving home from the other show that I do, I'm watching plane after plane after plane fly into McCarran International Airport. People are coming in droves, and yet our numbers are down. Caleb, what's the deal with that?
No, so I mean, the thing about it is the number of cases, I think, will probably go up as people decide to go get tested more often. But I think what's crazy about Las Vegas is that the numbers that go up won't necessarily reflect everybody that traveled here. So, like, people that come to Vegas usually come for a weekend or a few days at a time and then go back.
We're growing the numbers in other states.
Yeah. So let's say they come here, get it, and then go back, get tested at home. That's going to be that state's numbers, not our numbers. So our numbers might not necessarily on paper go up, but there is a risk of exposure. And this weekend was jumping. I mean, a friend of mine from out of town came, and I went and saw him last night on the Strip, and the Strip doesn't look as busy as usual, but it's busy down there.
People arm in arm.
Yeah.
Every bar is going. They're drinking. They're sharing drinks. They're kissing. It's a beautiful thing. No one cares.
Yeah,
it's really surprising.
It's good for Vegas economy.
Yeah,
but
is it good for Vegas in general? I'm watching your shout outs.
Yeah.
You're like talking to people like, without just coming out in your social media blast. You're basically saying stupid.
Yeah, like it's one of those things. Like, don't fight with reality. Like, if the mask thing is a thing that we have to do, let's just do that. It's one of those fights that is it really worth it? Like, you got to look at yourself and say, is it worth it that I, had to put this mask on when I go? Is it worth it that I just stay home for the weekend and don't do what I normally would have done on the 4th of July? Is that okay? Are we okay with that little bit of a sacrifice so that we can, get this thing under control? If not, then, we got to just say we're never going to be back under control. The government's never going to let us fully reopen. We're never going to have sports all the way back. It's just going to be kind of a lingering thing. And is it really worth it to do that? Just sacrifice a little bit so we can get
the
back
key
to
is
normal.
Caleb, it's real. And I mean, by now, if you don't know, there's that old saying, the 6 degrees of separation thing. I'll bet there's not a person out there that is more than 2 degrees separated from somebody that has contracted COVID-19. So I think by now we all know it's real. It's not a conspiracy. It's not a joke. Wear your mask, social distance. Let's get this thing under control and try to get some semblance of normality.
So how bummed are you that the NHL passed on Vegas? I mean, did you really think that it was a reality that it was going to happen here?
Just because of the accommodation factor. I think that's why we all thought you have to accommodate. You're not accommodating 2 teams. You're accommodating half the league's playoff teams and a lot of games, and you've got to have the facilities, not only the facilities to house the players, but facilities for them to practice at. And with about 3 ice rinks around town, including T-Mobile Arena, you have the facilities, and it made sense. But Caleb, you're right. How do you pick a hub that is the vacation mecca of our world?
And that was going to be my next question, because economically, not just would it have really been good for Vegas to make the best part of Las Vegas, which is a revenue generating stream for local governments in the casinos and in tourism? Would you be willing as a Vegas citizen to sacrifice the economy for a bubble that would last 3-4 years?
No,
or 3-4 months?
It's stupid.
Yeah, because that economically it makes more sense. I'm kind of glad, looking at it in hindsight, that Vegas didn't become a bubble, because our economy relies on tourism. If we have a bubble where we only have teams and tourists aren't in there spending their money, then our economy is going to suffer in the long run, in my opinion.
Well, there's the other side of this. The other side of it is the fact that Nevada has one of the highest, if not the highest, unemployment rate in the country. Mm-hmm. Our economy is nothing right now. And we are balancing the delicate act of money versus humanity.
Yep.
And quite honestly, I'm on the side of humanity. And the part that really hurts me, though, is the fact that had we been responsible as a city, and I'm talking to the casinos that just allowed people to come in without social distancing, I went to the Westgate the other day. They were
packed.
No.
They weren't packed?
No. It was like going into, I only went to the sports book, but it was literally like going into a military base. They checked my temperature, one way in, one way out. This is the entrance. This is the exit. Check my temperature. Oh, you don't have a mask? You're not allowed in. Go home. If we catch you without a mask, we're evicting you from the property. They were on top of it. A lot of places weren't.
Yeah.
And that's what forced the spread. And the thing that sucks the most is right now, you bring in 12 NHL teams, you are bringing people back to work. You are bringing people back to work at these hotels, the maids, the chefs, the cooks, the housekeepers, all these people who would need to work to make sure that this bubble actually worked and that these people could stay and the players could stay in these hotels. You're bringing people back to T-Mobile to work, the ice crew, the people who work the Zamboni, security. You are bringing all those people back to work. Because we were irresponsible for 3 weeks, we lost that.
Yeah. Okay.
And now the NHL, they picked up their ball and they're taking it somewhere else. That's on us. Don't blame the NHL. Don't blame Gary Bettman. Blame our city for being irresponsible and ignorant.
Like every other city in the country, Chris. We're not the only ones.
No, and that's just
look at Arizona. I mean, for
their
God's sakes,
their governor's a
just
moron, so that
moron.
explains a lot.
I mean, it is amazing that the cases per day, 4,000, 4,500, just skyrocketing.
Florida as well.
It's unbelievable.
I got a lot of friends in Florida, and they're all starting to freak out. They're like, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't have been going to the bars.
Maybe we should leave the beaches alone.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, no question, Chris. And with the NHL, back to that real quick. Reportedly, the 13th of July, right around the corner, teams will report to the hub cities, Edmonton and Toronto, on July 26th, with games and Phase 4 beginning on August 1st. Chris, now that you really got your hands on the pulse, I mean, you've been involved with the Vegas Golden Knights from day one, but really a part of the NHL. You got to travel to Winnipeg. You've traveled to Canada a couple of times now for playoff series with the Golden Knights. Canada obviously doing it right. The only country with their borders closed to us. Man.
Well, no, apparently Mexico closed their border
right,
too.
as well.
Wow, that's ironic.
No, it's crazy. Yeah, right. I mean, they're getting
nuts.
smart. They're like, these guys are idiots. Let's keep them out of here. But, Chris, realistically, is hockey going to happen, man? And we listened to Bernie Fratto last week, one of the guys I respect more than anyone else in this industry. And by the way, he was bummed that you didn't ask him a question. He called me on the way home and he said, "Didn't Caleb have a question for him?" And I blame myself.
You talk so much.
Well, and also,
you had a lot of good questions.
Here I was going to say, you were respecting that you saw a list. I had like 20 questions.
I did.
And Caleb's like, how's he going to get 20 questions in?
I looked at the time and I looked at your questions.
Well,
I was
right
like,
now, in case Bernie's listening, what question would you have had for him?
Don't do that. That's not fair. It's not fair at all.
All right,
I'll ask him questions next time.
Okay, and he will be on next time. But realistically, Chris, back to that, do you think we're going to see hockey for real? I mean, other than I think the teams will report to the hub cities. I mean, the 13th is less than a week and a half away.
8 days.
8 days away. So they're going to report. But August comes around, Phase 4. Is this really going to happen with these numbers continuing to skyrocket?
Well, we had the St. Louis Blues had to shut down their practice facility on Friday, or was it Friday, maybe Thursday, because multiple players tested positive for COVID-19. We have now seen a large number of Major League Baseball players. Just saw DJ LeMahieu of the Yankees tested positive. 4 Florida Marlins, 4 Atlanta Braves, including Freddie Freeman and his wife. Right? Yeah. All we keep hearing is about, oh, it's the flu. It's no big deal. It's these guys are professional athletes. They'll be fine. Well, in the past 24 hours, we have seen Freddie Freeman say that he has it, and his wife put a statement out on Instagram saying that it hit him like a ton of bricks. He never gets sick, and he's got high
Knocked
fevers.
him right down.
Yeah, I think she said. I think the word she said was hit him like a truck.
Yep. It's funny. My dad used that phrase. He said he felt like he was hit by a truck, and he couldn't get out of bed. His legs and bones hurt so bad.
Now locally, and I don't know how many people have actually seen this story, but there are reports from her agent that Liz Cambage will not play the WNBA season because the word is if she gets it, she is extremely high risk, so she's out. So now the Aces, they lost Kelsey Plum due to the Achilles injury.
Right.
And now you have Liz Cambage, who is out because if she gets this thing, it will knock her on her ass, unfortunately, it sounds like. We saw another player who played with the Aces. She's now with Chicago. She got it, and she posted on her Twitter that she had never been so sleepy in her entire life. Apparently, it's hitting her pretty bad. So at what point do we say it's only sports? These guys are humans, right? We Caleb, you played the game. Bryan, you and I have been in locker rooms. We have human interaction with players, with athletes. Fans don't have that, right? Like to them, they're and it sounds really cliche, but they're like robots. They don't see the human aspect of it. We're in the locker room. You know, we see guys get injured. We see what they go through in their personal life. You know, I remember when Marc-Andre Fleury had his concussion, and he came back, and he played, and he took a shot off the face mask, and he left the game. And my initial thought is not, oh, when is he coming back in the game?
How is he?
My initial thought is, Jesus. Marc-Andre Fleury is a great guy. I hope he's okay.
Absolutely.
So, the thing about that aspect of it, like, it's just sports to us as fans. I don't think we should be in such a push to get it back because it is just sports, and the health and safety should be paramount to everybody that's involved as a fan. Like, I want to see people be healthy. I want to see the world get healthy again. So if there's still health concerns around these sports, especially with the athletes and fans, obviously, I think we should definitely be thinking about that first. But this is a side that's cynical, but it's a side that needs to be told. There's a money and finance side of this thing that not just impacts this season for these sports. So let's say, the sports world as we know it takes a season off, basically. Like, you're talking about basketball and the NFL. The NFL in particular, if there's no NFL season, the ramifications of that will erase decades of progress on the financial aspect of it, which will then hinder player relationships, contract negotiations for future seasons if they ever do get back to normal. And that's the same with basketball, the same with the WNBA for sure. They have guaranteed contracts. Yes, these players do, but with the loss of revenue of losing an entire season and the TV deals that come with it, there's a legitimate concern that what comes back as the NFL after this will be so much different than the NFL that we know as far as the money and the contracts and for the player versus the league arrangements. The decades of progress will kind of be erased by an act of God, so to speak. I don't know if there's any clauses financially for that, but the revenue that's lost by this season, a lot of the owners will look at this as a financial hardship, just like the businesses that have laid people off and have come back with half staffs. I know, like, there's malls that are open here that didn't bring everybody back immediately. There's a mandatory like 20% pay cut for some of these people, even though they're back at work. They're not back at work under the same conditions. It's a different ball game when you come back, and that's kind of what is the risk now with losing the NFL season. And for the college game,
I was going to say
the implications of losing a college football season are catastrophic, not just to the sports programs, because all the smaller
universities themselves, Caleb, the educational
the
aspect.
smaller sports programs have no chance. They're going to get cut even just to make this season happen. But then you talk about the revenue that sports provide for universities and the programs that would have to be cut and the tuition that would have to increase to cover those costs. It's going to be a chaotic scene whenever we do get back after this happens.
We've seen some of this in the smaller East Coast conferences. The Patriot League, I think they announced that they're not playing any out-of-conference football games.
Yeah.
And the Ivy League is actually talking about playing
in the
fall season and a spring. And only against each other.
Maybe we should listen to them. They were the first ones to shut down because, like I think I said last week,
everybody
the smart.
freaked out.
I mean, the Ivy League, don't they produce some of the smartest people in the world?
They were
doing telling us. I mean,
they're doing all the research that Fauci them talk about when they talk about all those studies. It all comes from Ivy League schools,
Columbia, Brown, Yale. Well, I mean, but Chris, real quick, what I was just going to say is, piggybacking off of what you said about colleges, there is no question. You talk about, they say that they can't endure a lot of schools, and I know you're going to start alluding to this, Chris, can't endure the loss of one season. Just one is too much. But my point is, and this is a subject for another show that we'll talk about, what it's going to do is shed a lot of light on the fact about stipending college athletes because now you're going to see how much revenue it can be damaged and actually close down universities. So now you got to think about when we come back, wow, maybe you got to really start talking about stipending, which means paying college athletes, because when they're talking about a university shutting down because they don't have a football season, how do you not pay these football players when they're responsible for the university literally being in existence?
There's a lot of small schools out there. I mean, here's the thing. Let's hypothetically say Colorado, Utah, Nevada, they're good to go in the fall. But what happens if Gavin Newsom says, no sports in California in the fall? What does the Mountain West do to cover the losses of San Diego State, Fresno State, and
San Jose State?
I know San Jose State doesn't really bring a whole lot financially to the conference.
There's a game on the schedule, so TV deals. There's
so,
revenue.
are you going to have teams with like 7 games and then teams with 9? I mean, I don't know how you... I mean, because I can't imagine
we could just play Reno 7 times.
Yeah, Hawaii's not going to be traveling here. They're not going to be flying to the mainland.
No.
They're not going to be letting people on the island. I mean, if you see what's going on there, they have some of the strictest codes right now
I think they were the first ones to do the quarantine. Like when you come, you have to quarantine for 14 days.
Think about,
and it makes sense. I mean, you literally are. Hawaii is a bubble.
Yeah.
So you
like
do need
that. 5
can't
hours
infiltrate
away
this
from
bubble.
anything. You clearly have very limited hospital space and medical equipment on the islands. I mean, I don't know how you conceivably allow
that risk. That's that risk.
That is,
if you touch the island, you're a threat to everybody. You can't.
It's like if you bring 2 alligators into a pond where there's no alligators, it's almost like if you ever watch those documentaries about the Burmese pythons in the Everglades. Couple of idiots went and got them as pets, and then they got too big, and they let them loose in the Everglades.
And now you got an anaconda problem.
Now you got a huge problem.
They eat everything, and there's no predators. So they're literally destroying an ecosystem.
No, it's a really, really good point. I mean, what does Hawaii do, though? Because, again, the University of Hawaii, again, depends tremendously
on these
on the income. And who do they play? Hawaii plays Charminade 25 times? They just keep playing each other?
And the other thing is, think about all the students who go to Hawaii who are from California, who are from Nevada, who are from the West Coast. They're not going to be allowed on campus.
The implications of this global pandemic will, even if we do have some semblance of a season of all of these sports, some semblance of a school year with what Clark County's talking about doing with the schools, it's the impact it's going to have is going to last for years. And it's not just, in Vegas, of course, it's always talked about in terms of tourism and the revenue generated by casinos and the hotel industry and all that stuff. But just the implications that it'll have on, say, the education of students that miss out on this year, or have to get homeschooled or forced homeschool, or, the jobs that the people that are still unemployed. You got to remember, right now, the government is still providing a lot of assistance programs. So we haven't even seen the brunt of this economically. We haven't felt it. Like when the foreclosures start, because they're going to happen. Like the forbearance programs are about to run out. These mortgage companies we've seen, they're going to be cold-hearted when it comes to these things like this. You know what I'm saying? Like
100%.
Like the 2000 home crisis and all that stuff. That kind of thing you see when it comes down to the dollar, people are going to protect their investment, and it's for the greater good. The air quotes, or you can't. The greater good of the overall economy of the country that these companies need to stay afloat, I guess. But when those hardships start to hit the country, I think it'll feel a lot more real, and people will stop caring about the fact that maybe football won't happen. So it's a possibility it won't happen, but you won't be so concerned about that if there's also a possibility that your home is going to be foreclosed. And that's the reality of the financial side of this, the health risk side of it. It's a real thing that people really need to take seriously to an extent. And I don't think everybody has. It's been politicized and talked about in those terms for way too long. And I think that's one of the issues with this bipartisan country that we have. It's ridiculous that human health can be politicized, but that's the reality of it. And we have to, as a country, rise above it, as citizens rise above it and say, what's really good for us? Is it good for us? Is it better for us that the NFL season happens or that we get healthy?
Well, Caleb, again, I don't think it's us. That's the thing is people keep looking at it as though, fans. The big thing right now, matter of fact, the front page of the Review Journal sports section today talks about, how they're going to get fans into Allegiant Stadium. And the last payments of people's 2020 season tickets are coming due.
Yeah, it's like,
so, but that's not, it all again boils down to the revenue. Every commissioner in all 4 of the major sports are trying to at least make it look like they're going to have a season, and they have to. But now, is it going to happen? I don't know, but this is the way that it's going on. And Caleb, the economy, as we know, there's no question the long-term impact of this is going to be staggering.
Yeah.
Once we all sit back and take a look at it. And the amazing thing is, guys, is I talked to somebody just yesterday in a grocery store that truly looked me in the eyes and said they think that COVID-19 is crap. And I'm like, well, my father had it. It's not. But there are still people with that mindset that this is a big conspiracy. There's not really are you kidding me?
Yeah. And that's
the problem.
Like I said, that's the issue, like I said, with it being politicized, because there is a bubble of people, let's just talk about bubbles, that get their news and their information from unreliable sources who aren't interested in telling the reality of the truth. They're interested in telling a narrative and a version of the truth that applies to that narrative. So that to me is one of the dangers of society that we live in, is that somebody in this age, with all of the information that's at your fingertips, with the internet and things like that could walk around and think, if nothing else, that COVID is real. Like that should be a solid truth that people have. How impactful it is, how legitimate wearing masks everywhere is, how shutting down the government economically may have been the wrong decision. That's something that we can debate, we can talk about. But if somebody can still today say that like COVID is not real, like as a thing that exists, as a disease that exists, that to me is absolutely ridiculous.
It's a huge problem. It's what makes us look like idiots in the United States. You know, I'm still going to argue that it's the best country to live in the world. I'll argue that forever. Honestly, I didn't go out and celebrate Independence Day in any way, shape, or form because the word itself, independent, doesn't explain us, doesn't describe the United States right now. We're not independent. We are very dependent right now on a lot of things. And I just didn't feel it was a year to celebrate the United States or Independence Day. So I heard the fireworks. I had to deal with them.
It's like there was a discount.
Well, my dogs were going nuts. That's the one thing.
This was the most fireworks I've ever heard.
I had 5 fires.
I saw that, Chris. I saw you post it.
On my street.
Right across the street from you. People are lighting them off.
Yeah. So where I live, there's a side street.
Yeah.
My house overlooks the side street. Well, on the other side of the side street, excuse me, is a desert with brush.
Right.
So these people go on the other side of the street where the brush is, and they're shooting the fireworks off in the brush.
That's genius.
Well, I guess the wind blew one of them over, and it's shooting little rockets and hitting the side of my house. And then they hit a bush, and the bush was on fire. They were young people. I ran out of the house because I saw that there was a bush on fire. I'm like, you guys think maybe this is enough? And they were like, yeah, it scared us. We're done. We're going to put these away. Then a group of about 30 people showed up, and they were parked in almost the same exact spot. And I don't know if the guy could see me on my phone because I was trying to call Metro. I'm like, no. I'm watching this guy unload rocket after rocket on this street. And I'm like, this idiot is not going to do this right here, is he? Then I finally get out of the house, and I have to walk around a little bit to get to the side street. It's not like I could just go right out, and I'm on the side street. And my neighbors at the end, they're out, and they're like, no, they're like telling these people, no, this is not happening here. The last people already set a bush on fire. So they go like half a mile down the road, and geniuses decide to go into the brush, like legitimately into the brush, and they're shooting off these rockets. They started 3 fires.
Genius.
It really is. It's mind-blowing how dumb we can be. And really, especially just the fires up in Mount Charleston, where you could be seen throughout the valley. I could smell them, and I'm on the Henderson border. You were close.
I thought I was getting evacuated. Like the way, because how fast.
Like right after the fire at Mount Charleston, too. You think people would. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
So it's like
crazy.
when that fire happened, which is crazy because like I didn't realize it until like there was kind of this overcast, and I was like, wait, it's not supposed to be like raining today. So like there was like a shadow cast over my house, and I'm like looking out the window, like. Because I couldn't see the smoke, I could just see that the sun was blocked over the neighborhood. And I'm looking at one side of my house. I'm like, there's not a cloud in the sky. What's going on here? So then when I go back to the backyard of my house and look out of the back window, there's just, and you can see like the glow of the flame on the top of the mountain, like over the horizon of the mountain. I'm like, holy crap, we're going to get evacuated. Like that's how intense it looked from my vantage point.
And a week later, everyone's blowing off fireworks.
Like these fireworks.
Nothing happened. Listen, we're going to take a break here. On the other side, we have Jim Gemma, who is the media relations director of the Las Vegas Aviators, the AAA franchise of the Oakland A's. They just officially announced last week that they have completely canceled their season. I'm going to leave the NHL talk with this and say that I do not believe there will be an NHL postseason. Basketball's getting ready. They're a couple of days away from heading up there and reporting. Everyone's starting to opt out there. We'll talk a lot more about this as well. We'll talk to Jim Gemma. And one thing I want to say going into break, guys, and we can talk about this as well, talking about Major League Baseball, there's one player that I'll bet wished he had COVID-19 in Major League Baseball. How about Masahiro Tanaka? You think he might wish he had COVID-19? If he did, he wouldn't be in the hospital right now, would he? Hey, listen, if you haven't seen that, it's kind of gruesome yesterday. Giancarlo Stanton at spring training hit a line drive off of the head of Masahiro Tanaka, and talk about scary as hell. Why they didn't have a netting up during batting practice, especially with a guy like Giancarlo Stanton batting, is beyond me, but pretty wicked. Again, Jim Gemma, Media Relations Director, Las Vegas Aviators. On the other side, we'll be right back.
Facts, this. If you don't like the facts, take your ass back to bed. Fact this.
Well, listening to Out of Line, Fox Sports Radio 98.9 FM, 1340 AM. We are here every Sunday morning, 8 to 9 o'clock, and on the Fox Sports Residential Bancorp studio line with us right now, the media relations director for the Las Vegas Aviators, who on June 30th, just a couple days ago, they announced that there will be no season. Minor league teams with players for 2020 will not be supplied with any major league players, with anybody to play this year. Jimmy, you got the news earlier in the week. Not surprised at all, right?
First of all, Bryan and Caleb and Magnum, thanks for having me on. It just adds another chapter to this horrible 2020 calendar year. Obviously, we're one of 160 minor league teams, so it was a joint, obviously, announcement with MLB and minor league baseball. So, it's just it's crazy because 4 months ago we had the A's, Indians, Cubs, Reds here playing, and then things went south.
Well, obviously last year, just an epic season for minor league baseball in Las Vegas. The nicest stadium facility in the country opens up in Summerlin, Nevada. And it was incredible. Great record-breaking season for you guys with fans. Terrible for this to happen this season, Jim. But I know you guys are doing something for your season ticket holders. You're kind of crediting them for the 2021 season. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, on our website, aviatorslb.com, it's got all the different protocols. Obviously, people can't. Well, first of all, our sales reps are going to be contacting all our season ticket holders, and from there, they could do credit for next year. It can go all the way to a full refund. So it's kind of case-by-case basis with each season ticket holder because they're so important to us. We have a great fan base, and hopefully, forge ahead to 2021, and hopefully there's a vaccine because really that's the only way the sports and entertainment business with concerts and you're going to pack arenas back in. I mean, that's the only way we're going to come back to any sort of semblance next year.
Now, I would agree 100%. And, Jimmy, they're talking about, 38 Major League Baseball players and staffers have tested positive to this point. It's 1.2% of 3,185 people totally tested in Major League Baseball. That sounds really good on the surface, but overall, you've got a lot of people running scared. Earlier in the show, you heard Mike Trout talking about the fact that he's going to be a father for the first time very soon, so obviously that's weighing into his decision. But guys like David Price, he says, the heck with the $12 million I'm going to lose this year. I'm not going to play. How many more players, Jimmy, do you think are going to follow suit? And eventually, I just don't see this happening.
Well, first of all, David Price did a great thing. He contributed some money to the minor league system for the Dodger players, which is really a class act. Again, it's tough to predict what's going to happen next week, especially the way this thing's going. So hopefully if they can get to July 23, 24, they got a short window, 66 days to play 60 games. At this point, let's be real, all these major league sports are doing it for the TV money, and it's the bottom line is, I guess, just trying to get through this season and get through this nightmare of a calendar year.
I hope they do. We were talking about it in here. It's been a debate, obviously, since we've come back on the air. Bernie Frattle, one of my good friends, host of Straight Outta Vegas on Fox Sports Saturday nights last week, was pretty adamant about the fact that the leagues will all start. Obviously, you can't say the NFL at this point. We've got to get more results, and it's still a little bit down the road. But he was adamant that they'll start. It's a matter of whether they'll be able to conclude. And baseball is one of those. I mean, they're starting, and they've gone to camp. We're a couple of weeks away, and you're still seeing just complete uncertainty across the board. Jim, what do you hear as far as the future, like for the Aviators, for minor league baseball right now with this? I mean, how seriously is it being taken that even 2021, I mean, just go fall forward? Are you going to sell tickets for 2021 now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the minor leagues, it's two different areas. With the commissioner of baseball, they're looking to contract some teams in the lower minors. So we're not even going to have a AAA schedule till later on than we're used to. But when the fact of the matter is, when those 2021 dates come available, you really do have to forge ahead and just hopefully everything will be okay to get people back in the ballpark all the way till next April. And, you just have to forge ahead. In the minor leagues, the Pacific Coast League and the International League are going to be good as far as stable franchises. And, we're an umbrella of Major League Baseball, so they're going to dictate a lot of things.
You talked a little bit about the players earlier in the minor league. I think with the contracts and the compensation not as big as, say, David Price, who the $12 million contracts just don't exist in the minor league. What kind of financial and contract repercussions does this have for those minor league players as they try to figure out basically what, without the possibility now of being pulled up to major teams or things like that, what kind of contractual and financial burdens will they be facing in the future?
Well, as far as the AAA Aviators and all the other AAA players, a lot of the AAA players and the 40-man roster players, they're with the A's. So a lot of our Aviator players that would have been here playing, they're actually in camp now with the A's, and that goes for the other 29 teams. So, the bottom line is right now, none of the players are getting paid until they start playing later this month. So if something happened and the season got called off, the Major League players, especially them, they're not getting paid till next March. So that's why all these folks are making a concerted effort for obvious reasons to play. There's a perception also that minor league players get paid a lot of money, and that's not the case. It really is on a case-by-case basis. If a player's on a 40-man roster and he's playing in AAA, he's obviously making more financially than a player coming up through rookie ball, single A, double A, AAA. So, and a lot of these guys will play winter ball, so who knows if winter ball is even going to be played. And guys in the lower minors and stuff, they'll get supplemental jobs in the off season. So hopefully everything will work out for them.
He's Jim Gemma, Media Relations Director, Las Vegas Aviators, AAA franchise of the Oakland Athletics. Jimmy, finally, before I let you go, one of the things, we don't hear in Vegas, and, I don't want to talk a great deal about it, but again, it is the players. Any Aviator players, any minor league players, have you been hearing positive tests for those? Because all we hear about are the big name players, obviously, in the major league. But does that 38 players and 7 staff members include AAA, AA, single A, or is that specifically players with major league contracts and staffers of major league teams?
Yeah, staffers of major league teams, and you would go 60 players in the player pool times 30. So that would be 1,800 players. So that's who's getting tested at this time.
Yeah, that's what I had a feeling, because I don't think we're getting full information. Jim, I appreciate you coming on the show. I know you were on the Vegas Take on Friday. Pretty cool. I heard you with our good friends over there on KDON. But Jimmy, for yourself, what are you doing? I mean, obviously you're still there. You're sending out emails all the time, still doing your job. What is it like for you?
Well, obviously our legwork's all in the off season. We're all ready to go, and it's a lot of it's a shock. This is what you do in sports. It's been a very depressing time for everybody in sports, because we're a form of entertainment. So it's now we're in the July. We're September, Labor Day would be the end of the AAA season. So it's kind of the NBA Summer League got canceled. It just goes on and on and on. So there's not a lot of positive things going on, but there's always administrative and business things going on in the world of baseball, especially in our front office. So we're just trying to, again, it don't sound repetitive, just trying to get through this calendar year at this point.
Understandable. And the very last thing I'll ask you, the Las Vegas ballpark, what is the next, at this point, the next scheduled event that you know of happening at the Las Vegas ballpark?
Well, they'll schedule some events once, the economics and not really the economics, but the political aspect, and when the governor can move us into phase 3, that's when you can start doing some events at the ballpark.
check out the website, Las Vegas Aviators. You can find out how to get your 2021 tickets. And if you are a 2020 ticket holder, there's information on the benefits and the bonuses that the Las Vegas Aviators are extending to you. Definitely check it out. They are doing their part. Jim, as to echo the sentiments of the guys in the Vegas take, it's always great to have you on the show. One of the best media relations people I've worked with in Vegas, and I think all of us appreciate you always accommodating and coming on no matter what, last minute. Really appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for joining the show.
Brian, thanks for having me on, and be safe and stay well.
Absolutely. You do the same. That is Jim Gemma, again, Media Relations Director. Las Vegas Aviators, who on June 30th officially announced there will be no 2020 season. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. Hoping that the 2021 season stays intact for all of us. And, echoing the sentiments of a lot of people right now, man, we're all ready for 2020 in the middle of the year to get the hell out of here and move on to 2021. We're going to take our last break. We'll come back on the other side. We still have S&B with C, which is all about the silver and black with Caleb Herring. Fact this, we'll get to that on the other side as well. And a question I'm going to ask all the guys in here. What did you learn that you might not have learned over the past 3 months because of the lack of entertainment, the lack of socializing? Have you learned anything? We'll find out about that when we get back.
This. If you don't like the facts, take your ass back to bed. Fact this.
Yeah, it's a fact. The talk is beyond serious that the Washington Redskins will change their name. And rumor has it, if they change, could come as early as before the start of this season. This is a list of 5 front-running names being considered. The Washington Red Tails, the Washington Warriors, the Washington Hogs, or the Washington Red Hogs, the Washington Red Hawks, or how about this, the old Washington Senators. Those are the 5 front runners right now for the name. Guys, I just want your take on this because I love the fact that we are making changes. I love the fact that this world is finally waking up to racial and social injustice. We still have such a long way to go, but I do see a change, and I'm praying that this change compounds and becomes a legitimate change over time in our society, in our country, and in our world. But the Washington Redskins is a staple, and I just don't know how I feel about it. I don't want to be politically wrong here and get shot walking out of the building or something, Caleb.
Got a target on your back now.
But it's the Washington Redskins. It's like, to me, that's one of the names synonymous with the National Football League.
Yeah, so
and I understand it could be looked at derogatory, maybe the chief on the helmet, but in all honesty, and I'm not just saying this, to me it looks like strength. Like the Native Americans were strong, the Redskins were. I just don't know. To me, is it a bad symbol?
So I think it's less about the symbol than it is about the actual name, because the name
is derogatory.
It's derogatory,
Okay.
and that's how the name was born. To me, though, there's institutions and things that are
Is it carrying it too far? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so this is the thing. There's things that are problematic to the symbolism of our a hateful past, like the statues of like Robert E. Lee, and we talked about it last week. The Emancipation statue. Those things are memorialized as like a part of American history that we are glorifying. I think mascots, and this. So when I think about this, I think the most first world issue. I'm not concerned with the mascot or the symbolism of a mascot in a game, in a sport we play. Yes, it can be considered offensive. That's not the fight that I want to fight. If somebody, if people feel it necessary and see it as such an evil that it's, the root of racism in the country and all that kind of stuff, and the mascots of teams like UNLV and like Washington have to change their mascot, I'm not going to contest it. I'm not going to be mad about it. But I also understand that the fight is bigger than that symbol. Like those symbols are the very last of my concern. If it goes the priorities of changing society, the Washington team's mascot is not going to really change political systems or change the social economic structure of the country. That's the last of my concern. And then on top of that, I get the historic context of what that team means to the National Football League. You can't really tell the story of football without teams like Washington, like the Cowboys, the 49ers, and those kind of teams that are just historically a part of what we know and love as the NFL. So there's a part of it that takes away from the NFL, but in this instance, I think it's okay. It's the right move to do. There's other mascots that I'm like not as like the Braves, for instance, though in baseball. That's not even a derogatory term. Like that, so that's not even. But then what I like about this is the first name that you mentioned on that list, the Red Tails.
There's a good story behind that.
There's an absolutely great story that we don't tell enough in American history, and it pays homage to one of the great military achievements in our military's history, and it also happens to be a very diversifying and if you talk about representation and inclusion, it turns into one of those symbols if you go with that name. And I've seen some artist renderings of what the mascot would look like and, what the logo looked like. The Red Tails they had a movie about this, about the Tuskegee Airmen back in the day, or back in the early 2000s, where, they were depicted as the heroes they were for the first time on the big screen. So now you get the team name to be the Red Tails. If that happens, I'm on board with a change like that, because then you keep a lot of, the alliteration of the Redskins when you say, the Red Tails. And then the imagery kind of stays the same for branding purposes for the team. And then you also pay homage to one of the most overlooked military hero groups that we have in our country.
Airmen, man.
They're huge. They're huge.
Big time.
And I think that would be an appropriate way to pay homage to them. I'm down, and especially being in D.C., that's it just made sense. When I saw it for the first time, I'm like, oh, that would be great. That would be cool.
I'm not disagreeing with you. My feeling is the repercussions of the longtime Redskins fans that actually look at this derogatory and they get angry about it.
The wins and losses over the last decade have been derogatory.
They're enough for them to be. I'm not going to disagree. Real quickly, I wanted you to talk about the Raiders as well, real quick. The S&B with C, of course, the silver and black with Caleb Herring, and I do really want to quickly ask us all what we thought, what we learned over the course of the last 3 months. But real quick about the Raiders.
Yeah, so the Raiders, with the NFL making some adjustments to the preseason, lost their first and fourth game of the preseason, which big deals because that's I believe the first game was going to be in Seattle, and then the fourth was supposed to be, I want to say it was a home game. But they will still have a home game for the preseason to kind of get a dress rehearsal on how operations will go at Allegiant Stadium. So, but like with no fans, I don't think it's going to be really that big of a deal to have operations run smoothly if we do have a season. But the home opener is still going to be that week one home opener. So, just a dress rehearsal you're missing out of the preseason, and that's kind of big news in a
the players want there to be less than preseason games anyways.
That's the thing. So we might be looking at one of the healthier, especially with a team like, with your running back.
One of the few
Jacobs,
benefits of this whole thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Less training camp, less preseason games. Get right to it if you're going to do it. And so, that rhymed. Get right to it if you're going to do it.
Here we go. Hey, listen, real quick, guys, before we get out of here, we got about 2 minutes left and we're out the door. Real quick, I want to ask each of you, besides sports, we've all had a lot of time to sit around and do nothing, and what have you learned? I'm just going to give you an example of something I learned and how moronic this is. But just recently, watching the Three Stooges, I was watching the marathon, and you know how if you've ever seen the scenes where Curly yells out, "Mo Larry Cheese," whenever he sees a mouse? You ever seen that, the Three Stooges, where he goes, "No, you haven't seen it? Oh, they're the greatest." Well, what it was is Mo comes out and finally says, "I learned why that saying, Mo Larry Cheese," every time he says, well, he goes, he's conditioned that way because his dad was a rat. Mo Larry Cheese. I thought it was funny. Anyways.
I learned that you cannot, no matter how much you try, match the energy of a 5-year-old. Trying to keep up with my son for an entire day is impossible.
We're here every week. Go ahead, Mags.
I'll just say, I don't want to call these people racists, but a lot of people I know just don't get it.
I agree 100%. This is Out of Line. We are here every Sunday morning, 8 to 9, Fox Sports Radio, 98.9 FM, 1340 AM, flagship of the Vegas Golden Knights. I want to thank Jimmy Gemma, Caleb Herring, Chris Bagdon Chapman, and
The Wiz!
We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.